on AM 1380 WYSH. Tune in Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for Trading Time, and Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for Trading Time Prime Time, right here on AM 1380 WYSH.
Send what you want to. We're on the air. I love it. Welcome to Between the Lines. I'm here with Michael Foster today, the city manager of Rocky Top. I call it Lake City, but that's me. And we're going to talk about, that's it. We're going to talk about all things Lake City and all things Rocky Top, as it's currently called, and everything. We say Lake City because there'll be some history in this too. And we'll get a little bit of everything because it all runs together. And I want to remind everybody, 2 weeks we're going to replay the E.T. Stamey show from the fall, so you'll get to see E.T. in action for an hour on February 17th at 7 o'clock. We've got a lot of requests to replay that show because it was an hour interview, and a lot of people think the world of E.T., and we're going to get that show on the air on February 17th for those of you that have called. Michael, how's it going in Lake City? Tell us what's going on.
Man, things are going good. It's kind of been one of those things that, you know, when I went up there, I've been up there now 6.5 years, which is kind of hard to believe.
Wow, it's hard to believe that, yeah. Seems like you just got out of there.
I was telling my employees
Who left there? Tyler left before you?
Tyler's there and Chris. They were there kind of, you know, in the...
Chris. Can't remember Chris.
From the county.
Phillips.
I went blank on his last name. Yeah. He's been gone now.
He's been gone for a while. He went second time, never came back. Yeah.
So, but things are good. We're kind of seeing a lot of development that has come through with that process. One of the things in that first year I was there, we added ATVs on the highway. So that was one of the big things because Windrock, you know, is right there 2.5 miles from downtown. And Windrock's one of the largest riding.
You know, my wife's from New River, but I can never get the circle down. You know, it seems like it's very close to Oliver Springs. And then when I think of Oliver Springs and Lake City, I'm thinking 12, 15 miles away, but they're really not.
Well, and what we kind of learned too, just kind of with how big of an area it is, there's a lot of trails on our side that people like to ride, but they can't, you know, it's hard to make it in one day with food. You get hungry, you need something to drink, you need gas, and now when we allow them to come in town and get gas, get food, eat at the barbecue place next door from City Hall, and then they get back on the trails and ride. So what we're seeing now because of that, you know, when I first got there and we kind of passed that in, went to state legislature to get that passed, you know, you'd see, you know, a couple ATVs on a weekend, then you wouldn't see anything for a couple weekends. Then it was every weekend you kind of started seeing them. Now it don't matter what day of the week it is, you've got a group of people riding in town, and we've got 3 new developments coming with that. We've got one that's a campground that's already opened, Cold Creek Campgrounds. It opened in November, and then we've got Creekside cabin rentals that have developed overnight cabin. 6
Where are those
cabins. What they call the island. So if you're familiar with Rocky Top, you're going up 116. What they call Coney Island. I don't know where the name came from. I've asked, and no one seems to be able to give me an answer. But it's on the other side, going up 116. So it's a perfect location for people that want to ride because they can just jump on 116, head up the mountain to Beach Grove area. So they are officially opening this weekend. Their first rentals are this weekend. So it's a nice. And what I've is nice about it that I've seen with these overnight and even the short-term rentals, people are buying old homes that are blighted properties that needed either repair or just a family member passed away and they've been sitting empty. They bought them and now they're turning them into, you know, the Airbnbs and those kind of things. So we're getting more.
How big a business is Windrock?
Oh, they have over 100,000 visitors a year.
And they're mostly four-wheelers, right?
Side-by-side, four-wheelers. You know, now they've added the mountain biking that's become a thing. Now, they just rent the space. They don't run it themselves.
What makes it so special? Why wouldn't it be different than Crossville Mountain or Cookville Mountain? Why is Windrock so special?
I think it's probably the size of it. I mean, it's one of the largest. It is the largest landowner in Anderson County. I mean, they've got 40,000 acres.
Exactly.
And not all that's trails, but, a lot of that is trails. But you can ride, you can stay. They've got their cabins. They've got the RV park. So, I mean, they've got all the facilities there.
So if I go out of Lake City, and, I'm familiar with Val Mountain because I got the grant to run the water up there, me and Rex did a long time ago. And if you go up Val to the top, beautiful country, and you get up there on the top, they have a few campgrounds up there. Where would Windrock be from there?
So, like for us, well, the Y, what they call the Y.
Yeah.
When now they redid that road, so it's not really a Y, but that's Beach Grove Lane. If you turn down
Beach Grove goes right.
Go right. Yeah. If you kept going
Windrock
up,
goes left. I mean, Val Mountain goes
on
left.
up to the left, and you would hit the school, right? So if you turn on Beach Grove, that's how we kind of have people routed. So if you go up 116, you turn on Beach Grove, you go down to Beach Grove, and their property starts right there. That's where one of their trailheads is. So if you go on down Beach Grove, but all that area across from Beach Grove to Oliver Springs is their property. I couldn't tell you where the property lines are, but I mean, it comes pretty far into, doesn't get in town, but it's right on the edge of town. So it's a large piece of property.
So if I drive into Beach Grove, if I'm coming out this side of not the Oliver Springs side, but if I'm coming out this side, I'm allowed to take my four-wheeler, get on the road, come into Lake City, get a Coke, get a hamburger, go up to McDonald's, whatever I want to do.
McDonald's, Cracker Barrel, Pilot. Well, now that's about to be a Casey's. Pilot has sold their all their small convenience stores. The Casey has bought like 40-something of those. So they're about, I saw over Emory Road, they're changing the
But the big ones, Pilot's keeping.
But all the trucking Pilots are keeping. So, and I don't know, but I know they sold 40-something, but Casey's is coming into town. But you can actually, when you get on the highway, you can go, when you come out to the red light at 116, and you've got the red light, and you had where ShopRite was on your left, you go right, and you go all the way out to what we call there's the car washes at 8th Street. So you can go all the way to 8th Street. So when we added that in, let people come here and wash their four-wheelers, that kind of thing. And then you can go all the way to the Waffle House in Campbell County, because Campbell County had a line. So you can go all the way to Waffle House, and then really there's some side roads in Campbell County they opened up that you can go ride Royal Blue. You can get parked in Rocky Top, unload your four-wheeler, never load back up, and you can go ride Royal Blue, all that area, come back, stay the night in Rocky Top, or you can jump on, go to Windrock, ride Windrock, come back, stay the night in Rocky Top. So I think we're in a great location. And then the other thing is we're 2.5 miles from Morris Dam State Park. Yeah. So, if you're not into ATVing, we can get a place for you to stay to go ride boats in the summertime. So summer and winter covered.
We've got 2 interstate exits there that we have never been able to develop fully like 122.
Right.
What are we doing to help with that?
So the big thing is we've added a TIF program. Those are one of the things that the county, they've done that, in Anderson County, the county adopted it. We've also adopted it at the city level. One of the things we did, we changed our amount to $500,000. So any project, incremental finance, for the ones that know, tax incremental financing. Right. We lowered that amount down to $500,000. Okay. So, which would allow for smaller projects to qualify, because I think the county level is $3 million. Right. In Clinton is $3 million. So you're just not going to have a lot of $3 million projects come into Rocky Top. I mean, hopefully at some point we do.
I get it.
But the biggest problem that we have is, we don't have industrial space. We have a few, spots, but you're stuck between a railroad. We have railroad access is great, but you're stuck between a mountain and another mountain, and you're out in the valley. You have interstate access, so that is the positive.
That's the huge,
And what we've seen, development up, especially 441 side of the interstate, we're seeing more development up there. Cracker Barrel sits on that exit.
Right.
One of the new campgrounds is just on the other side of the exit, going up 116.
Across on the right or the left?
If you go up 116, going towards Campbell County, it's going to be on your left.
Okay.
Powell Clinch has moved their operations center. There's a place there right past the interstate on the right. They moved their operations there, and their main headquarters is in downtown. But what we're seeing, some of those things like the TIF, but really it's trying to recruit different businesses that fit the area. For us, we understand you're not going to have our population is not a large population. It never has been. Yeah. I mean, going back to the 1800s, 1900s, there was a lot of people that lived there because it was a coal mining town. But as the coal left, that town, the population did not sustain itself, and so you have a smaller population. So when you're recruiting retail, the big thing is tourism. If we can drive that tourism market, grow that tourism base, and then we go, okay, hey, people are visiting here, people are staying here, now they need a place to eat. That Cracker Barrel stays busy, that McDonald's stays busy. We've had a Little Caesars come in. If you ever go to Glenn's, it's busy. It's a local pizza place. I mean, the barbecue place in town, Cold Creek Smokehouse was named a top 10 barbecue place in Tennessee. So, I mean, they get a ton of ATV business that comes off the mountain. They also get a lot of interstate traffic. And so you get that. But it's all about land, getting price land and getting people that are willing to sell land. It's a combination, right? It's not going to happen overnight, and that's not going to happen overnight, but we think we can take those baby steps. We do have the new development that Gordon Cox did that's got a Little Caesars in it. It's the old Hillbilly Market. He had bought that property. He's redeveloped that, added on to it. We've got a retail space. The Bates sisters, they use that. Their warehousing. All their operations are out of that. They, a lot of them have online
Let's don't minimize Zach's role now. He's helping. He's helping.
They like to call it the sisters, but Zach, I know, is very involved.
Zach's got a lot of.
But they have a big online presence, and so they do a lot of all their pictures and stuff right there in town. So I mean, that's a good thing for us. So we'll see what continues to grow. I think if we can find that niche of the ATV overnight rentals, really trying to get rid of the blighted properties. That's something I've been working on.
We'll talk about that. Maybe a whole segment. There.
It could be.
Tell me about. Let's look at the budget first.
Okay.
All right. So what is the Lake City budget? And I'll ask questions as we answer.
So we have two major funds, which is our general fund.
Of course, like everybody.
Like everybody. And then we have a utility. We have our own water and sewer. We buy our water.
Okay. The general fund pays police.
Fire. Recreation.
Okay.
And sanitation. Well, sanitation falls under general fund, but it also has its own fee.
Sure, it always does in most counties.
Yeah, so sanitation and public works, so any of our streets.
So what does your general fund run a year?
About.
Just roughly.
Yeah, roughly. 1.2 is kind of where we're at.
And your utility fund or whatever you call it?
It's about 1.4 to 1.5.
Okay, so let's look at this. So we're talking about 2.5 to 2.7, somewhere in there. So that money is generated how?
Sales tax, property tax are the main two.
And what's the breakdown of it?
Property tax, we collect about $500,000.
Okay.
And then sales tax, as we've all seen in the last 2 years, sales tax has gone up. So we're internet sales tax, and even in the pandemic, we thought we would see a big drop off, but really we saw because people were coming here, we picked up, and so it's probably.
But when somebody in your community orders from Amazon, that you get the sales tax.
Yeah, which was not something we were getting before. And another thing
that's right.
we're seeing is people are ordering groceries online, so we're now getting those groceries that are delivered.
So sales tax would have to be to make it balance would be $1 million.
No. Sales tax is about our share, because half of it goes to school. It's about $500,000, and then you got your other fees.
Does that make up enough to pay the bill?
It does.
Utility's self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient. So that wasn't the case.
These two taxes feed the general fund.
Right, and as part of those two taxes, I mean, you've got your state share.
So when you say sales tax, you mean the sales tax attached to the general fund, not education.
Yeah, local option sales tax. So you do have your state share, which is another $150,000.
I guess.
So that would make up your difference, and then you've got fees here and there from stuff. So, but we have as a state law, we have to have a balanced budget. We've added to our fund balance the last few years, which has been big to us. We've been able to do some bigger projects. But one of the things, our budget will vary based on grants, and we go after every grant that we possibly can. That it makes sense for the city. I'm not going to go after a 50-50 grant if it's not something it's something we want to do, but it's not something we have to do. But if we know we're going to have to do it, I'm going to try to find money to at least pay for some of it.
Okay, before we go to our first break here, last property tax increase was when?
2000.
Roughly.
Yeah, 2000, before I got there, so 2014. Now, when the last certification, we left our tax rate the same.
Okay.
We did not adjust it down because of just projects that we were working on. So, so tax rate that they increased was 2014.
Yeah, for the actual increase. Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to talk more about Rocky Top.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
Welcome back. We're talking to Michael Foster about Lake City and Rocky Top and the history. Of course, we're talking about Rocky Top now. We're talking about the budget and things that are going on. No tax increase in the last 7 years. The general fund's doing well. And we'll talk a little bit about Michael for a second and then move on. We know you could, I mean, obviously I've been in the business a long time, but your father was superintendent.
Yep.
Et cetera, et cetera. Brothers and sisters?
I've got an older brother and a sister, so me and my brother are 15 months apart.
Okay.
He lives in Clinton and married with
What's his name?
Matt Foster.
Okay, I think
I
I know
think you
Matt.
met
Yeah, I met
before.
Matt before, yeah.
And then we have an older sister that lives in Murphyboro. Her husband works with Farm Bureau Insurance. in
That's where
Columbia,
they are. I
so-
remember when I played basketball at MTSU, you drive by and there was that big brick building.
Yeah.
It was farm, you hard to believe, but it was State Farm's
Yeah.
national headquarters, you know, one of those days.
They've been in Murphysboro for a while now, but she's 6 years older than us. So me and my brother were close in age, and
Right.
she's a little older, probably second mom to us half the time, trying to tell
Sure,
us what
trying
to
to
do.
keep up, help.
Married, I've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
Or 2 kids. I've got 3 kids. I've got twin 3-year-olds.
We ain't going any further without talking about my girl from
yeah.
Beach. We're going to talk about my girl from Beach.
Did not lose any kids.
That's good.
But twin 3-year-olds. They turned 3 in November, and I have an 8-year-old son that turned 8 in December. So he's in 2nd grade. And me and my wife have been married for going on, we had our 11th year anniversary in
Wow,
November.
that's fantastic. Now tell me about her. I mean, I know her, and you obviously, most people know her, and a very talented woman. She came from Beach. She's a Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, she's a
girl.
Middle
Where'd y'all
Tennessee
meet?
girl.
College?
College and church. So she was at college at UT. I'm a UT grad.
Okay.
And then we were both at church at Sevier Heights Baptist over in Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
And played on the same softball team. I was working with our college ministry.
That's about as healthy as it gets.
Yeah,
huh?
right.
You
So
get any better than that.
So we did that, started dating, and then her parents, she got a job out of college here, works for Head Start, been there since she graduated.
She's still there?
Still there.
Wow.
So, you know, obviously with the pandemic, that's changed quite a bit of things. Hopefully, you know, at some point she'll get to come home, stay with the kids. But
Wasn't Beach a charter school to begin with?
you know, I cannot tell you.
I think Riley Lovingood, my friend.
Okay, yeah, Riley. I
Riley,
know
my
Loving
All-American,
Goods.
he went to Beach, and we, you know, we talked a little bit about him. Of course, I always reference your wife. It's the only person I know from Beach. But I got family down there now. I mean, different people that know a lot of people from Beach. Very successful high school.
Well, and what's crazy is that the Loving Goods, so Riley calls me and he says, hey, this is Riley Loving Goods. I was like, hey, Trevor. Well, Trevor's his brother. He's like, I'm Riley. I was like, yeah, I know your brother. I'm sorry. I was like,
the preacher.
Yeah. And so my wife's family and his family went to church together.
Okay.
So I know his parents.
At the community
great
church.
people.
Yeah, my friends.
Long Hollow is the big church
yeah.
there in Hendersonville, and they live there. Now his parents are in Cleveland.
Yeah, my buddies. I'm close to the Ergen family. Me and Charlie grew up together, and his sister went there, and her kids had Riley's father, and you know, he was a minister there at one time in Hendersonville, so I'm very familiar with it. In fact, he's on the school board. He's running for office.
Oh, really?
Unopposed. He's in good shape. They come out of Cleveland originally, and he's down there for Mr. Levingood. Wish him the best of luck, and he. Run for school board, he got appointed, and now you got to go through the thing. But he's really well thought of. He's at the big Baptist church center, huge, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so anyway, you great family, and you've done well. So you've been up here for. What did you do before you went? Just take me out to UT.
Yeah. So UT.
How old are you?
I'm 38. Will be 39 in August. Yeah. I always had to think of how old I am. My brother's 15 months when he turns his birthday.
And your wife's younger or older?
Younger. We're actually 4 days apart in our birthdays, and so she's about right at 4 years younger than me. So
that's great.
We share birthdays. So when we were dating, I had to buy the first birthday gift. I'm like, oh, how serious are we?
4 hours. There you go. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that.
Hey, I went all out.
He knew how serious he was.
That's right.
He was in over his head from the start. Let me tell you.
Outkicked my coverage. I'm not afraid to admit that.
Yeah, she's okay.
So out of college, went to work for. I guess I graduated in December of 06.
Okay.
Not a ton of jobs out there coming out as a political science major.
Yeah, I did say.
So I was going to go to law school was my original plan, but then when I got to the time I got done with school, I was ready to go make some money. So worked for 21st Mortgage. Yeah, right. You gotta pay bills, right? Yeah. You gotta. So worked at 21st Mortgage for a little bit. That was kind of just one of those get your feet wet, and went into insurance actually for a little bit.
I remember that.
And then kind of like, well, that's not real. I want to do something in my community. It's always been something important to me. So I actually went and worked at a church for a little bit. As an intern.
That's always rewarding.
Yeah, so that was a learning experience.
I did in graduate school.
Met my wife that way, so it actually worked. It worked great. But worked in college ministry and sports ministry, and then got married. Like, okay, I got to find another full-time job. So actually, probably the job that I learned the most and I hated the most was I delivered cookies for about 8 months, and before I went to ASAP. So learned a lot, learned real quick. I like to talk to people, and if you're in a truck all day, you don't get to talk to people unless you're on cell phones. I could tell you every radio station where it ended going up to Johnson City. Yeah. I mean, I had it triggered. A lot of countryside, and good for the people that can drive a truck. It's just not what was not my calling.
Yeah.
So ASAP of Anderson, which has been on the show, and brought me back to Anderson County.
How's Stephanie?
She's good. What's she doing? She left ASAP, and she is working. She's doing a lot of consulting work.
She did a lot. She did a lot of good with that organization.
She did. Outstanding. They just hired a new executive director. That Jay had some changes. The pandemic really hurt them too because your things are not meeting. Community things are not meeting, so it's hard for them to do their job when they can't get out in the community. So they're kind of getting their feet back in the game. But she's doing some work at the state level and doing some consulting. So we still keep in touch here and there. So I was at ASAP for 4 years. Did a lot of their legislative initiatives, a lot of their local government relations. So that kind of how it led me
Congress Fleischman said he saw you all the time.
Right. Yeah, great relationship with them, and obviously we kept that relationship as we've gone to Rocky Top. They've been a big help to us. His office is always good to help with grants, and they actually helped me we're working on a SRF project, and we had some issues, and we called their office, and by the end of the day, it was taken care of.
Good job, Chuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Cindy ran that up the flagpole. She does a great job for this area.
Another Clinton girl,
yeah. So that kind of the ASAP got me back in and I always loved politics, always loved government. And
you've always had the bug.
It kind of got me back involved with it and brought me back home too. That was my biggest thing. Me and my wife were living in Knoxville and just love Anderson County, so I wanted to move back home and know my neighbors when I go to the grocery store, see my friends, see my family, and so that's been good. We live.
Your father lives out towards somewhere in the north, doesn't he?
No, they live in South Clinton. So
is it South Clinton?
Near where Joe Hollingsworth doing they live off Yarnell Road.
Outstanding project.
Yeah, outstanding. Great thing for South Clinton. Great thing for Anderson County, not just South Clinton, but just really helping that area.
South Clinton's got a unique kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. There's something special about South Clinton. They've always had a little chip on their shoulder.
And you look at that area,
and it backs up to Claxton. They get landlocked there, but a lot of good people.
A lot of history there. You know, when before the interstate came through, I mean, South Clinton. I mean, it was 4-lane highway. You had a lot of stuff in South Clinton.
Yeah.
But my mom grew up across the street, so her dad, was the county judge, J.D.
right.
Yarnell. So she grew up in government, and so they grew up on Yarnell Road, and my parents live across from where my mother was raised, and her, across the same area from where her dad was raised. So it's just kind of family property, and been there. That's where I grew up. That's the only house I ever lived in until I moved out on my own. Excuse me, sorry.
That's all right. No, you're fine. Everybody in town is, so why shouldn't you?
Yeah, right. This change of weather has got me again.
Yeah, you can't tell the good stuff from the bad stuff anymore.
I went to the doctor yesterday for my annual physical, and he's like, people come in and, they're this, and you don't know if they're coughing or sick, or if they're just coughing because it's East Tennessee and allergies are flaring up.
That's right. That's what gets me. And if it's going to rain, my head's like a thermometer, a barometer, whatever. I start to feel pressure in the head,
No, it's coming.
I'm so old, it all hits me at this point, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so going back to Lake City for a minute. Let's talk a few more minutes about Lake City. So you got a budget. How many councilmen do you report to?
5. So,
the mayor's one of them.
Mayor's one of them. So,
name them for me.
You've got Tim Sharp, who's our mayor.
Still there?
Still there.
God almighty. He works hard for the city.
He does.
I like Tim.
He's been really, and he was there. We changed our form of government. So before we never had a city manager, and then we had a city recorder that reported to the council.
That's right.
And each council member, they were commissioners. They were over each department.
That's right.
So we made that change in 2015.
That was a good change.
Great change. And I think every council member that was involved with it would tell you we've, the money we saved. So you got Vice Mayor Justin Job. He works in the school system.
Okay.
You've got Zach Green, who came on 2 years ago, his first time ever involved in politics, government. So he's on. Tony Devaney, who's been there.
Some new names.
New name. He's finishing a term. He came on board from that. Was on the board, didn't really, once they ran, realized it probably wasn't what they thought, so resigned, so he filled that seat. And then Denise Castile.
I was going to say,
she's on her, she's on her second term. So
okay. Where's Denise then?
She works in juvenile court or I never can remember if it's in Rex's circuit court, the circuit court.
Yeah, which side of the hallway, yeah.
Right. And one time I know she was in juvenile, but then I think she went to the other side, but, I'm not going to hold me to that one. So, but I've got a great council to work with. They really give me a lot of trust in what we do as a city. We've really,
well, you've been there long enough. It takes a few years.
It does. And we've, Tim's been there the whole time I've been there. Denise was part of the people that hired me. And everybody else is new from when I was hired. But, I think my record speaks for itself and what we've done for the city. We've really, we're talking about some of that progress. But, I can remember when I first got there, that our phone still said Bell South, and I'm thinking, when did AT&T and Bell South merge? I mean, you're talking early 2000s, late 90s.
Oh, at least that far back.
There was things we had to do to get us into, the 21st century, right? And taking those steps to making sure we're moving forward. Everything's gone internet-based, everything. But even just equipment at our fire, we've just got a CDBG grant that we just closed out where we got a new fire truck. So that's a $300,000+ fire truck with equipment that we're having to pay $30,000 for, and so that's a big win for the city, because otherwise we can't afford to pay for a fire truck, and that's something that we worked really hard to get. We got a grant from USDA that allowed us to buy some new police cars and Mini X for our road department, some updates, extrication equipment for our fire, new cameras for our police officers. So
where does your fire protection end and Medford's begin and that kind of stuff?
City limits. So we all have a mutual aid agreement.
All right, let's do landmarks here.
Okay,
let's look at Isabel's business.
So that's in Medford. So that would be a volunteer.
Okay. All right.
The middle school, if you're going, is the city limits. So if you're going out of town and then going on the north end, the city limits go all the way past Powell Clinch and what there was used to be just a Cotton Doors. If you're familiar with Cotton Doors, it's kind of the last.
So the library and McDonald's, all that's in the city.
All in the city. All in the other. We go all the way on the other side of the interstate.
Okay.
And then going northbound on 116, just past what we call the island, is the city limits. And then 441, you go. There's the BP, the old BP, Dollar General, all that. You go underneath the interstate,
hill, yeah.
and just right into the curve is about city limits. So we're much longer than we are wide.
So where Zach grew up and his family, they're outside.
They're outside city limits.
Okay, I know
Lovely
that.
Bluff Road. If you go over the interstate on Lovely Bluff to get to Lovely Bluff, that's the city limit.
Have you done any annexing in the last 6 years?
No, we haven't done any annexing. The last annexing they did was going up into Campbell County side because we're
That's what
both
I
on
figured.
Anderson and Campbell County. There's probably there was plans to do some more annexation where what A&S Steel was, but I think there was some pushback from Caryville, even though that they found out Caryville, that wasn't the Caryville city limits. But we run sewer up there. We have sewer outside of our city limits, so we go sewer all the way up to the old A&S Steel, which is
North Anderson, who runs that? They call them ACUB.
Yeah,
ACWA, they have the water, we have
Water
the sewer.
Authority, okay.
And so the Water Authority handles most of that all up through there. We have sewer up Cherry Bottom area, Cherry Lane, so we have some sewer up there. So we got a little bit more sewer customers than we do water customers, which is not normal. Most people, it's either about the same or more water customers, because water's cheaper to put in than sewer lines, as you know. And
Absolutely.
a lot easier to maintain, too. So.
Well, that's why when you go to Oak Ridge, you get a water bill and your sewer bill is always adjusted higher, 1.25, 1.3, or whatever it is nowadays, which is not cheap.
Yeah, it's definitely not cheap. But, I think, when we first got there, too, we one of the things that we really worked on was our water, because our water loss was over 50%.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we were applying for grants, and then the state was on us because we were operating in the red.
I remember that, too.
Because we were skating by with some grants, and then we didn't get a grant a year, and that really, then your books show, hey, you can't operate in the red for 2 years in a row. So we had, and that was no fault of previous people there, and they walked into it, and but we got it fixed. So we've been operating in the black for the last, 4 or 5 years now. So it was baby steps. Rates went up quite a bit over a 3-year period. We negotiated with the states. We could kind of graduate for those.
You got to have revenue to pay.
They wanted to rip the Band-Aid off, and that's just hard on our residents because it is. We got lower income there. But with this new development, some new taxes coming in, we've got Clayton. They moved all their trucking operation up to what was the old Universal Well building, but they do all their trucking operations out there. So they have their facility still in Andersonville at the David Jones, and then all their trucks, and then they control all their trucking operations all out of the country, or on the U.S. out of that same facility. So that's been a big revenue generator because of the new business going in there, property taxes. So that's helped.
Good.
With that
All right, let's take a break. 2 minutes here. We're talking to Michael Foster, the city manager for the last 7 years of Rocky Top, Tennessee, formerly Lake City. We're going to talk a little history, Bryceville and New River coming up next. Thank you.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex was about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
Come watch Alex take on this mountain. That's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're here with the city manager of Rocky Top, my good friend Michael Foster. He's a good man, and we're going to, well, first I want to thank Ryan Spitzer, Roger Miller, and Victoria Bowling for helping with the show tonight. I appreciate it. Always appreciate the sponsors. Let's talk about Lake City's identity. And, you know, my wife is from New River, and that's just not a light sentence. I mean, I remember the first time I ever went up there, it was like 2007, I believe, or 8. And I remember I called my buddies and said, if I don't call you in 2 hours, you come find me, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a different world. You'd heard a lot about it because I grew up around Ernie when I got back from Pittsburgh, so Ernie taught me a lot about New River, Ernie Phillips. But it was great. I love those people. I've been to church up there several times, done some stuff. Haven't been in a few years, but just a real good group of people. But when I think of New River and I go down the hill and I think of Bryceville, it always seems like a part of the Lake City community.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how much, when those people come out, do they come out your side and shop with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, and I would think that was probably, especially when we lost our grocery store, you know, I think that really affected that community because that's where they came down, especially the Bryceville community, because their kids go to Lake City Middle.
Where was the grocery store? Was
right there in town, where the shop right, Piggly Wiggly. Before that, had the Sharps had it before that. So, you know, that really hurt.
No grocery store.
No grocery store. Now
you got to fix that.
We've been working on it. I think the easiest thing to.
So where do I get a gallon of milk? Got to go to
you can go to the Family Dollar and you go to Dollar General. Both of them had expanded what they did. So that was good for them to add in some produce, add in some.
So really, they drive to Clinton and get the groceries.
They do.
Or
the far, you know, you're so far, you either go on the backside to Oliver Springs. So depending how far you're into New River, if it's easier to go that way, you're going to go that way. But most people, I say Clinton, when they're coming from home from work.
Do you know the populations? I know Bryceville, I want to say it's around. Is 1,400 too big? Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
No, I know our population is 1,688 with the new census, and that's both Campbell.
I figure New River's got 300 or 400 people. Both sides of the creek. Yeah.
You know, and our zip code, that Rocky Top zip code expands, you know, all the way out to Medford so far, and then it turns into the Clinton zip code, going up the mountain to Bryceville, and then Bryceville has their own zip code, and then you go back towards even Lovely Bluff and the Norris Dam up to Norris Dam. I mean, all that's a Rocky Top address more than it is. Then you go on the other side of the dam, you pick up the city of Norris and their zip code. So in that,
it's
crazy. You know, it's about 5,400 probably in that Rocky Top zip code. Which would be the surrounding.
You know, people. I do a lot of, as you know, a lot of polling and surveying, and I do a lot of political work and analysis. And people don't realize how big the 37716 zip code is.
Yeah,
it's bigger than Oak Ridge. I mean, it's out there.
Because you go from Clinton up to so far into Claxton.
Well, you go to Marlow, you go to Claxton, you go other places. I mean, it's all the way to the interstate.
Yeah. And
bigger.
Right, you just don't realize how much of a large.
And your 37 was the 828 is Norris. You're 6'9".
3'9", yeah, 6'9".
And you go up to Bryceville and it changes again.
Bryceville has their own, so I don't know where that cutoff is.
And where does New River fall in the Bryceville code?
Yeah, I would think they're in the Bryceville.
Okay.
I just don't make.
People don't realize when the coal mines were open, there was 5,000 people at their
yeah.
Rosedale School in New River.
Absolutely.
It was huge.
You know, one of the things they're seeing, and I was talking to Shane Val today because he, has that's one of his in his district as the county commissioner up there. So our county commissioners, him and Tim, serve Rocky Top, and then they go up to New River.
That's what makes me think.
And they said they're seeing a lot of development of New River, and it all has to do with the ATVs.
Oh, sure.
The old school up there has been turned into a cabin.
Saber's got land up there, and I know the old down the place from her land is one of those camper resort places on the left that's on the creek coming up on this side, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of people developing. I haven't been up there in a couple of years. This was kind of neglectful. I like to get back up there, but
if you get car sick, it ain't the easiest.
You ain't driven with my wife.
Yeah.
She does it on purpose. But my poor kids would get so sick, just different things. But but she was driving at 12 up there. Whatever those people,
whatever you got to do.
I mean, 14 they drove to New River. Nobody who's going to get them. Nobody ever patrols.
A few years ago, my dad's family was from Scott County, so we were up in Scott County, Oneida for one of the holidays, and my in-laws came up. Well, he's a Corvette, and he's a Corvette guy, and so great place to go driving if you have a Corvette, a lot of those curves and stuff. And I don't get car sick, but by the time we got done, I was ready to get out of the car and kiss the ground.
The motor, so what's it called? The Devil's Triangle?
Devil's Triangle's up there. You just get a lot of riders that come up there, and so, the ATVs.
Yeah, as Windrock goes, I think New River will develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And and Windrock will tell you their business has never been better.
Oh, I hear that every day.
And what they see, they're doing some expansions out at their campgrounds. What they would tell you, used to Tuesday's always a transition, right? You have people come for a long weekend, they leave on Monday, so Tuesday's that kind of over. He said, usually they would pick up back up, and Tuesday there'd be maybe one or two people still left here. Now, he said they're still half full on Tuesday. People are just staying longer. They're working from home. They're working from on the road, and so they can.
Well, I'm in the nuclear world. I'm a development director and manager for a larger contractor, and I can tell you, it's harder and harder to get people to come back to work.
Yeah.
It's just they've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
Kids,
they can pick their kids up at school, no daycare. That's a big issue.
They
that's what a lot of
stay home. They're saving money.
Yeah.
And are they as efficient from there? Depends what your job is.
Right.
We evaluate it. We would look at it in different ways, but it depends what your job is.
Because, there's a lot of things you can do that is from home, right? And, and we think about this, they're not going to be as efficient at home. Well, but what we do when we're at a in store, we go to the bathroom, then we go by somebody's office, talk to them for a few minutes. Somebody comes in your office, they talk a few minutes. So I see where there can be some efficiency working from home, but obviously depends on the job. You can't pave streets from home, so that's one of those.
Yeah, and I think in management teams, there's a difference between Zoom.
Right. Yeah.
We get around the room. And it's interesting because I've always been a freedom-focused guy, but I think that you look at the street art in Los Angeles and New York, they're painting Biden and Pelosi into communist China outfits. People are tired of the restrictions.
Oh, yeah.
These are radical liberal types, and people are just tired. It's killing the economy. Yeah. I like to say the science didn't measure up. They tried. I think it needs to be said that they tried. And the vaccines have helped us a little bit. I know you've had Trump buying everybody for the vaccines, but in the end, they just keep getting disease right. Well, we always have. And my argument has been in the end that the science may have failed, but we've created a major drug business. In other words, testing, pharmaceuticals, they're never going to let it go away because there's too much money.
Too much money.
And that's my theory.
And what we've really seen that has suffered during the pandemic is drug overdoses, mental health
issues,
child abuse, things that
but
really.
It goes deeper than that. I do a lot of election work from Nashville to Chattanooga or Wells, and sheriff offices that are incumbents are having trouble. 80 jobs unfilled, 60 jobs.
Yeah.
Well, that creates a flyer for me. You know what I mean? It's hard to get people to come back to work, and the salaries are inadequate. Why would you work in a jail for $14 an hour when you can go to Panera for $16 an hour?
Yeah.
People are going to have to raise weights. And I'm a conservative, but county government's going to have to raise, and cities are going to have to raise salaries, so we have no choice.
And that's something we've really worked on because we felt like we were behind even before this. Because you're always going to be behind the industries, right? Because it's commercial business, they can raise rates because they're just going to put the price back on the consumer, right? Government, you only got so much money, but we were behind, and that's something we've really worked hard to get a living wage, especially because law enforcement, people, you can jump to any department. You go right now, you pick up a phone, any department around here is hiring.
Oh, yeah.
In more than one spot. Luckily, we had a lot of the same people, and then we had some turnover, and since we had that one spot, that's kind of been you know, they come work for you and then they go, okay.
How many employees in this Lake City? 20-something?
Yeah, we're 20. I think we're at 26 full time. You know, it varies. I had
Is Shetterly still the chief of police?
Still the chief of police.
He's like Tom Brady.
Yeah, he has survived us all.
He's Tom Brady.
He's been there over 30 years as chief. One of the longest serving chiefs in.
He's a very likable guy.
Or in the state of Tennessee, but he's now our public safety director. So he's over fire and police.
Okay.
So we've kind of had to do some rearranging there. Our past fire chief, died.
I didn't know that.
Passed away from COVID. So we appreciate his service, but he did pass away during that. And so he was a part-time fire chief, so he had retired from the plants and had helped us out. And so we just kind of did some restructuring there. So we, the family, we always told them we appreciate what he did for the community. And I
love the Lake City Parade. I go every year.
Hey, one of the best ones around, if not the best.
And you just got kids out there, and you got people out there that are working class people who just appreciate it.
And we try to be the first one to kick off the Christmas parade spectacular, the Christmas holidays.
I remember being a judge one year, sitting up there with a judge or something. It was so cold.
Oh, yeah. Now this year we got a break. It was pretty mild this year, but I've been out there, and like you said, it can be cold.
It can be 25, winds blowing, and people are it's been horrible. But it's been better this year.
People love coming out for it. Last year we didn't have it because of the pandemic, and then we're able to have it this past year.
But it's a big event. When did that many Lake City people get together? I mean, it's not very many. Maybe for July 4th.
4th of July. That's what I say.
4th of July.
And probably the Anderson County Fair.
But that's not in Lake City.
But we do. And
you bring everybody to the streets. That's pretty big.
We have a lot of people that come out for 4th of July. And this year we did something different.
The middle school football field down there is just packed.
We did on a Friday night this year to kick off. We kind of, because of the way 4th of July fell on a Sunday, so we didn't want to have the celebration on Sunday. Well, everybody else was doing Saturday, so we said, let's try Friday to kind of just kick off the weekend. And we had great success with that. And that might say something we look going forward. Our recreation committee has really worked on that. Just to, people get off work and they go, let's start the weekend.
I never forget, whenever I think of Lake City, I did some grant work, did some stuff up there. But Tiny and that whole rec department and the tragedies that man faced.
Yeah, Tiny was a good one. And Tiny was, when I first got there, Tiny had gotten sick not long after I got there, but he really, he loved that.
And he lost his, he lose in a car crash? His son?
Lost his son, yeah.
Oh, like a year or two before?
I think so, because that was before I got there. But lost his son in a car wreck. And then he passed away from cancer within about a year of being diagnosed. And but he loved that community. His dad was on council. The Hawks are from up there, and his dad was on council. And Dad might have been mayor at one point.
He was good people.
But
he cares. Softball tournaments.
Oh, loves the softball.
Everything we had up there was just
softball.
I love participating.
It's a good community. It's a rural community. Got a lot of the people that live there. Grew up there. They were born and raised there. And
I lived in Pittsburgh 15 years, and 91% of the people, very clannish town, there are hills and up and down like this, and 91% of the people that live in Pittsburgh, now this is what I was there in 92, 94, I was there 84, 95, and grew up there. It's not a transit city like Nashville, Atlanta, but Pittsburgh, boom, that's who you're from. Let's take one last break, and we'll be right back with our city manager from Rocky Top.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Ryan Spitzer has been a prosecutor in Anderson County since 2007, prosecuting more than 2,500 cases over the past decade. Ryan has been the Drug Task Force prosecutor for the past 7 years. Ryan donates time working with local nonprofits. A veteran, Ryan spent 6 years serving his country as an Army medic in the National Guard. Ryan is a family man who works hard every day to keep Anderson County families safe. Experience matters.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Welcome back to our final segment of Between the Lines here on Thursday night. We're talking to Michael Foster, all things Lake City, Rocky Top. You know Lake City won the state basketball championship in 1959?
I did not know that.
Yeah. I mean, all one category. They beat the big teams from all around.
You know,
the Lakers were great. I mean,
when I told me
I was
that?
3, but I mean.
Jim Shetterly. Because, he's our local historian. Because he was probably playing, right?
Yeah, he was chief of police then or something.
But, you hear all these old stories about Lake City and, the rivalries because you had Norris High School, Lake City High School, and, and Clinton was, Clinton, but those, Norris and Lake City
wasn't cost effective, but it was a better time,
And, they had a lot of good athletes that came out of there. Coach Kerr, got his start up there in Lake City and stuff. So it's just interesting to hear the stories and how, because right there, I mean, that was the place to come through. If you were going north and south on traveling, you were coming through downtown Lake City, Tennessee.
Did you play sports in high school?
I did. I was a football player, and I grew up playing basketball, baseball, but in high school I played football.
Let's get to the core question of tomorrow night. Can Clinton beat Oak Ridge tomorrow night?
I tell you what, this Clinton team's pretty tough.
That's what everybody said. They beat Fulton.
The question is, it's always the name on the jersey, right? I mean, when I was in high school, we beat, they had a winning streak against them. I mean, it was quite a bit in a row. I mean, those were always a fight. So I never doubt my Dragons. I think they give them a better shot in basketball than do football.
Sure. And then the migration of athletes from Knoxville into the football program have created some basketball players too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's what I hear. I don't know much about it.
They've got a stout team this year.
I'm going to go over because I haven't seen Sarah Burton play, so I'm going to go over and see. I know she can shoot.
Oh, she can score.
I tried to get her on the show. She didn't think she could do 48 minutes, but
okay.
So Scott, but
you give Scott 15 or 20
that's
minutes. That's
all he deserves.
Right?
I'd give him 12 and give her 36.
There you go.
But having been a shooter in high school and college, I can appreciate what she has to do and where she's at. But they say she can really play.
She can.
But Oak Ridge will be fast.
The
girls will be quick. They'll pressure her a lot. And
packed house probably. It'll be a packed
house.
It always is, right?
Oh.
I mean,
yeah, but this one's going to be because Quentin's probably a slight favorite in the boys' league. So and then they come back to Oak Ridge, will be the opposite.
Right.
But I think Clinton feels it this time they won it. And they're in different districts. Yeah. So it's not like the old days where you could split.
Yeah, right.
Then in the tournaments, I lost to what I consider the best Clinton basketball team ever in regular season twice. And then we beat them in the district championship and went on to the state. But they had Jimmy Hodge at a guard and Russell Fritz, Tyrone Fritz. They had Jerry Rick. They had Massey Elvis, Kimmy Weaver. All of them played college something. And we had some great games, 88, 84, because I had Otis, myself, and some others. So we had a lot of fun. But Clinton, that's a big rivalry, Clinton Oak.
Oh, yeah. And that's, I remember, when I was in school, kind of 99 to 2002, there's a lot of good basketball games.
Was Jermaine around in those days?
Jermaine was there, so Jermaine, I guess, would have been 99, and then you had Naif and Jesse Rod was, with my grades. So
how old was the guy that went to Pittsburgh? I saw him up. I had dinner with him once.
So he would have been, I think, there was
06 or 07 maybe.
There was two brothers. One went to Pitt, and I think he was
7-footer.
Yeah, I think he was 2 years behind me in school, 03, 04.
Okay.
He had an older brother that was on that 99 state. They went to the state tournament. You had that was Jermaine and Dedrick Dye.
Jermaine had a kind of a John Moran kind of style.
Jonathan Dye came later, but Dedrick Dye, he went and played ball up in New York somewhere. So had some really good. I mean, there were some really good games back then.
Was quick.
Quick.
And
he was
John Moran.
He was quick in football too. I mean,
it was the same. And of course, you go back far enough to Scotty Witt and some others. They had some dominant athletes, in the early '90s as well. But you're still dealing with population. But you're right. It's not are you better, it's can you beat Oak Ridge.
That's right.
Do they have a middle
Tennessee and Florida, right? Sometimes it's Tennessee's, better team, and they still come out there with an L. But I have full confidence in my Dragons that they'll pull off the victory.
He's calling for a Dragon victory.
Calling for a Dragon victory in both girls and boys.
Have you seen them play this year?
No, I watched them some on the TV. People are that, and they were zooming. People.
Oh yeah, you can watch anything.
I watch it. So
well, as you watch that, I'm too old for that. But
it's hard to get to the games when you have kids that are the age when you got bedtime and plus working. Your job doesn't always end at 4:30, 5 o'clock. You got meetings and you got things going on. So definitely love basketball. I love sports. Politics and sports,
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's your desire for politics. Of course, you've had Lynch as a councilman, which hasn't helped you at all.
Let's not
it's not helped you at all. We won't go into that historical event. I think you're destined to do some more in politics. I think the Lake City stint was good for you because it stabilized. You got the chance to contribute. Got a chance to, to say you didn't look like you didn't pull the Tyler and go boom, boom, boom. and Tyler's a friend of mine. I
love Tyler.
Tyler's a good guy. So anyway, but I think you had that ability, and I think there's other things. And it's like all these people. My wife is running for commission. You're running for commission of Clinton. Other people are running. It's a whole generation. It's time to turn it over. These people that are in their 40s and 30s, late 30s, early 40s. I mean, we've had. The average age up there has been 70 forever, and it's time to let some of those people get involved. And some of those people are valuable resources. I'm not picking on everybody, but you need some young, and I think we'll see more women this time, and I think we'll see more young people, and that's exciting for the county. And from there, you get a little better perspective of how that all works and everything. So I think it's exciting for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because I think it's I just stay up there in Rocky Top, but I'm still going to have my day job there.
Your home's Clinton.
Yeah, right. But be able to do some things in the county and be able to even take my experience from the city side of things.
Sure.
Because counties and city has to work together. As you know, when you work with the county, I mean you grants and opportunities.
What will you be conflicted on? When will you won't be able to vote? Everybody has some of that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things I think. Obviously, if there's any,
I can't think.
It's not as much as like if you're with the sheriff's department or school system where you're voting on, because it's not like we get money from the county on things. But there is an issue. I'm obviously going to make sure I think that it could be a conflict.
I'm trying to think because I worked that, but I would say maybe some grant stuff maybe, or but any kind of appropriation where you're giving money to Lake City. That stuff you may have to exempt from. Maybe not. I don't know. I have to think through it and everything. I mean, you have to get.
There's just not a lot of things that we work together on a lot of stuff, but just where there's a voting thing, most of it's kind of voting in support of something.
The budget itself and Rick Meredith. That's a good commissioner. I've always been a political opposite in a sense, but he's a great commissioner, was a good register of deeds. He's retiring.
Yeah.
That opens up a seat for you, doesn't it? Is Bob Jameson going to run? Do we know?
We don't know. So he hasn't pulled yet. I think there's been back and forth, and I don't know if he's made up his mind.
I think everybody's back and forth.
Yeah, right. We'll know in the next.
It's a challenge. Have you turned your petition?
I have turned it in.
Yeah, you did the other day.
I've got my signatures, and so
it's
we're
tough.
excited. It is. You don't realize it, and then you start trying to figure out where people live in the district, and and then somebody signs, but their name is registered.
I have a friend who is one of the best. Well, he's a sole source guy, really. He runs the app on the phones, and he does door-to-door in the big cities, and he really creates an opportunity in Republican primaries for one side or the other. Outstanding, works in Knoxville mostly, but outstanding guy. But he's told me since COVID started, he's your age, and since COVID started, that he's found more people at home than before. You think they won't answer the door because of COVID, but it's the opposite. They're already home.
Yeah. So
they answer the door. They're smart enough to know as long as you're standing back, it's not a big issue.
Right.
Well, we got 30 seconds left. You're doing a good job up there. There's a lot of challenges, a lot to develop. We didn't touch homeless because I was going to let you go on that. You got some issues with that.
Yeah.
But I found something out in the Knoxville campaigns. They're dumping people in your community, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
We don't have time to talk about it, but you're doing a good job of trying to address it. Listen, they're going to count us down. If anything I can do for you, let me know. County needs your help. Everybody needs your help. Get out
I
there and
appreciate
help.
you having me on. I
we
enjoy
enjoy
coming
it.
to talk about my town.
I'm going to go volunteer fire departments next week.
There we go.
Thank you for watching Between the Lines. Okay, great.
Roger Miller is a conservative and lifetime resident of Anderson County who has served as Sessions Judge since 2014. Judge Miller has adjudicated more than 30,000 cases, both civil and criminal, over the past 7 years. Roger is a graduate of Clinton High School, and he volunteers time coaching youth sports and serving as an instructor. A paramedic for 12 years, Roger worked saving lives at the Anderson County EMS, MedFlight 5, and Methodist Medical Center. In 2022, let's re-elect Roger Miller, General Sessions Judge.
Ryan Spitzer, for Circuit Court Judge, is also sponsoring tonight's program. Ryan is a prosecutor and Army medic for 6 years and a lifetime Tennessean. A graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, Ryan is dedicated to serving the citizens of Anderson County.
The life of every child is precious. If you care for a child or teenager with a disability and have limited income and resources, they may qualify for monthly cash payments through the Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI-Kids to learn more. That's ssa.gov/SSI-Kids. Message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man in foot patrol and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.